I don't think I have words to describe this week's puzzle and everything that went into putting it together. This week we talk about robots, the dark times of Walt Disney, and my utter failure as a puzzler. All that and more this week on Janky Puzzles. Welcome back to Janky Puzzles. On this channel, we take a look at vintage jigsaw puzzles. I have to tell you, this week, I was really excited for this puzzle. I put a poll on our YouTube channel in the community page, which check back there often because I asked a lot of questions there for feedback from the show. And this week I put in what people's thoughts were on the subject for this week. Their choices were Robot Pals or Magic Eye. Narrowly squeaking by was Robot Pals. And I had this whole spiel worked out of Robot Pals through the ages, or through the decades. Fun Robot Pals, like old Robbie the Robot here, who was probably the most famous robot in pop culture around the middle of the 20th century. He was in everything from, the Forbidden Planet. He was on I Love Lucy. He was even in the Looney Tunes Back in Action movie. He was everywhere. And then, of course, you have folks like R2-D2 and C-3PO and, BB-8. Pretty cool, eh? And then, of course, my two personal favorites, Tom Servo and Crow for Mystery Science Theater 3000. And I had this whole spiel written out about these guys until I did the puzzle. I can't really even put into words this puzzle, and I'm just going to show you, and then we'll talk about it, all right? So I'm kind of keeping it kind of close to the chest because you'll see it, and I'm sorry in advance if it causes any nightmares, but let's take a look. That's Vincent from the 1978 Walt Disney picture, The Black Hole, which I was familiar with The Black Hole, but I had never seen it until the other day preparing for this episode. Disney's The Black Hole is from what a lot of people consider the dark times of Disney. Long gone were the golden age of Disney, Snow White, Cinderella, all those Disney classics. And Walt Disney had passed away, and Disney really couldn't find their footing on their creative vision. Like I said, the golden age was long gone, and the resurgence in the early 90s of movies like The Lion King, The Little Mermaid, Beauty and the Beast were on the horizon. So you have this time period where Disney was just kind of throwing things at the wall to see what sticks. And this is definitely a product of its time, and it really speaks to Disney's kind of flux that it was in. So, like I said, this puzzle was part of a merchandising thing for The Black Hole in 1978. Now remember, 1979. This came out after Star Wars and after Close Encounters of the Third Kind. Disney, like most movie studios back then, were falling over themselves to get on the sci-fi fantasy bandwagon. World building, really, going past Buck Rogers and Commander Cody and all those things. They really trying to tap into that. And this little film I highly recommend watching at least once. It is a bizarro movie, and it was also Disney's very first rated PG movie. They had some other movies that were kind of the umbrella, but this was the first official PG movie from Walt Disney. So this little guy here, who kind of looks like, actually he kind of looks like Mr. BB-8 over here. He talks in a British accent, and he's a round ball that kind of floats around. He's absolutely C-3PO and R2-D2 kind of pushed together in one. And he's played by Mr. Roddy McDowall from Planet of the Apes. And this film, it's a pretty standard sci-fi standard. The crew of a ship called the Palomino is searching for life in space. After about a year and a half, they're heading home, and they decide at the last minute to explore a black hole. That's the name. And they come across a ship that was lost 20 years earlier, and it looks abandoned until they get there, and there's one guy still alive there with a whole bunch of robots. Very reminiscent of Star Wars, like the Star Wars troopers. When they were putting this movie together, they went through lots of different... They weren't quite sure if they wanted to make it an action movie or a disaster movie. They settled on essentially a haunted house movie is what it is. It's very eerie. For being kind of like a B-movie rated type of thing, this was, they put $20 million into it. They made $35 million. Visually, this movie is beautiful. The sets are unreal. You look at them, and obviously they didn't have CGI back then. They are amazing. It is absolutely beautiful, these sets. They're gigantic. The effects for 1978, not Industrial Light and Magic, they're not too bad. The story is all over the place. But it's definitely worth checking out. It's light on subtlety, but it's a slick 90 minutes. But this isn't a movie review show, so because I could talk another half hour about the black hole. So this puzzle was made by Whitman Publishing. Made lots of different things. They were in the coin collecting business for a long time too, making guidebooks and stuff. This was part of the some sort of agreement they had with Walt Disney, and they made this. Now, what drew me to this was, for one, the package. Like, I love the vintage packaging. Careful there, buddy. The packaging is really cool. It's nice and bright. I was nervous because there is a lot of dark colors on here, but it's a 500-piece puzzle. It should be no problem. So I was really excited. Here's what really is fascinating about the packaging to this puzzle. On the back is they have a little blurb about the black hole movie. They tell the entire plot of this movie, beginning to end, from the ship finding another ship, the horrors that they find on this ship, how they escape, by what means. The only thing they don't say is in the last 5 minutes or so, the film goes through just an insane turn, and the imagery is esoteric. You don't know if you're going through hell, through heaven, what. It definitely borrowed a little bit from 2001: A Space Odyssey as well. It's bizarro, and this little blurb tells the broad strokes of the entire film. Just, here you go. Spoiler alert, right here. This would be like if they made a puzzle of Jurassic Park, and they describe in the first paragraph that a rich billionaire designs to build a park full of genetically modified dinosaurs, and they bring some paleontologists to come and to check out the park. The power gets turned off. The T-Rex and the Velociraptors get out. Literally, they went through the kids get separated, and they narrowly escape the T-Rex, and it was literally, if it ended there, and they narrowly escape the T-Rex, and they get on a helicopter and leave. Essentially, this is what it is. I'll take a picture of this, and I'll put it on the YouTube page in the community section, so you can read it for yourself. Very cool. So this puzzle, again, 500 pieces. It's not that big either. It's 15 by 18. Easy peasy. Again, I'm not going to toot my own horn. However, I've done some puzzles in my day, and a 500 piece puzzle is not that bad, not that hard for me. 2-3 hours maybe, if I'm really in the zone. Y'all, this puzzle was insane. And there's a term used in the gaming community called rage quitting. I had to talk myself out of rage quitting like 3 times with this puzzle. This was no joke. And I'll tell you, I kind of cheated to begin with. When I opened the box, there was a few pieces that were already connected together from the last person that did it. Again, this was bought used from a half-price bookstore here in town. And so the previous owner had left some pieces stuck together. And I go, well, cool. I'm just going to get through that really easy. Oh, goodness. Yeah. You'll see in the time lapse at the end of this video. Holy Hannah. So obviously, the bright colors, the green, the blue, easy peasy lemon squeezy. Vincent's dead eyes here that I've stared at longer than I ever wanted to. Not that hard. His body, again, not so hard. You've got a couple different angles and shapes, but this right here, this, even this little strip right here, and all of this black was awful, absolutely terrible. I'm not afraid of solid color puzzles. I've done a few. I'm actually, I'm not going to spoil too much, but I'm actually working on a video that's going to come out here down the line here is a solid color puzzle of sorts, and you'll see what I mean when we get there in the future. But so I'm not afraid of solid color puzzles. Every piece was almost identical. They just had little tiny variations. You can't, even with all the sorting, and you'll see in the time lapse, there's lots of different things you can do when you're working on a solid color puzzle. I can talk, I know what words are. There are a few things you can do to get unstuck from a solid color picture. The key for sure is to be organized. Get your colors separated if you can. Or have your shapes, if they're different shapes, get those all sorted and lined out in straight lines. Because what you want to do is, if you need to find a specific shape, you don't want to have to go like this. Your brain can't work that fast. Having to change the angles. You want to just go up and down a straight line. And if you can sort them in trays or like on a cookie sheet, that way you can just turn it around and go the same direction. That's primo the best way to do it. I tried every trick I had that I knew, and it still took me. You ready for this? I've gotten into timing myself to doing puzzles because, again, for another project that's coming out soon, I'm going to be attempting a speed puzzle, which I'm really excited about. Of course, with the Janky Puzzles twist. So I've been getting into timing them to see how long they take. Again, 2-3 hours for a 500-piece puzzle, maybe 4 if it's got some challenges to it. Not unheard of. Shoot, the world record for a 500-piece puzzle is like 10 minutes. So 2-3 hours is okay, because I take my time. I drink my cozy cups, and I enjoy them. So check this out. I saved this because I wanted to show y'all. This was the timer that I used to time myself. You ready for this? 9 hours and 34 minutes and 52 seconds is how long this puzzle took me. Most of that time, probably 6.5, almost 7 hours of that time, was all these little black pieces. 9.5. That's almost 10 hours. This is only a 500-piece puzzle, okay? 5 rows and 10 spaces this way is 50 pieces. I averaged 50 pieces an hour, but that was an average. There's no. That took me a long time, longer than it probably could have. In fact, this video will probably be released late. Not your fault, because it took me so long to build this. Don't be afraid of jumping into vintage puzzles. And if you do get stuck, that's okay. Just chug it along. But remember, there's plenty of puzzles out there. So if you do have to throw in the towel, I'm certainly not going to judge you. I've thrown in the towel a few times doing puzzles. I almost threw in the towel on this one, but I was in it to win it. And I'm glad I did, because hard work is good work, and this one was no joke. And if I never have to see Vincent's eyes again, it'll be a good day. So I hope you enjoyed that. I very much recommend The Black Hole. You can actually watch it, I believe, on YouTube, but it's on Disney Plus and some other streaming sites for sure. A dark movie from a dark time in Disney history. Grab a robot. I had to borrow a bunch of these. Grab a robot pal and watch it. Before we get to the time lapse, I've got a reenactment of my experience watching this movie and building this puzzle. So I hope you enjoy that, and then enjoy the time lapse. Thank you so much for tuning in again this week. It's been a joy, even at hard, not a very fun puzzle. It's still one of my greatest joys is to do this, and I am very much excited for what's next. So remember, do good things, be good people, enjoy the reenactment and the time lapse, and come back to Janky Puzzles, and hey, let's put a puzzle together.